skip Monday, right? Coming to the week, it's a bit weird where we have just in a range still where the Fridays close. We do tag this high here, but I wouldn't consider this totally relevant, right? Kind of a failure swing. When I look off of ES, right, we're even closer to this high, right? So I'm looking into these internal lows. How do we react to this, right? Because we are still far away from this low here. So we really want to see how Monday plays out, right? So if you play Monday's candle, it gaps again, crazy market. Um, let's just go over Monday's PA in general, though. So when you look at the lower time frames, it's just the previous day's lows, right? These are relevant swings on the lower time frame, like 7 hour, 4 hour, right? We open low into this and we expand away. So on the close, this gives us bias coming rolling into the next day, right? Because now we have failure swings to this side. And we're just opening up the next day near the previous day's high and obviously this high. But we can't even trade Monday because when you look at the 8 o'clock candle, I mean, it basically prints the whole average daily range. There's not much you can expect in the 8 a.m. candle regardless. Um, so that was Monday. So rolling into the close, we're going to be rolling our bias over to longs. This is what I would assume, right? Previous day's high next to Friday's high, which is the previous week's high. So now let's go over and look at the profile that we had. First, let's go over the economic calendar. I apologize. So Monday, nothing, nothing relevant. Tuesday, we have Fed Chair Powell. Not really. 10 a.m. news is usually not something that's crazy. Not going to shake up the market too much. Nothing we need to concern ourselves with. Now CPI, obviously, we're going to wait till after CPI forms. Um, and we also have 10 a.m. news. Again, not something that we need to concern ourselves with. We're really just going to be considering, you know, 8:30 on Wednesday. Now, Thursday, core PPI is one of those news events that can get a little crazy. Kind of like the medium um, tier. I would wait. I think that's in the protocol. We wait for core PPI because it can do some things you don't really want to be involved before that. And then Friday, nothing to really concern ourselves with. This is not going to shake up the marketplace. So that's kind of our framework there. So let's go into Tuesday. We have 10 a.m. news. Let's keep that in mind. So playing out the two candles here, this is starting to look really good for longs, right? Because what we see here is the 1800 candle opening low first. Market the daily open. Do you think about a bullish candle, right? What do? We open low first. And what we're doing is leaving objectives still open for the 8 a.m. candle. This is always ideal, right? Um, and we have relevance on the lower time frame, right? You have a range from here to here. These little lows are like reversal points you're going to see on the hourly time frame. So once we see this, we have two range candles. We can definitely expect this is always ideal, right? We want to see these little range candles. So 8 a.m. candle can give us that large move. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see 1800 create this huge candle because that's basically using a lot of fuel, right? Not enough. You can't expect 8 a.m. to match that level of volatility there. So we want less time or less movement of manipulation in the daily candle, so we can get more expansion in the daily candle, right? Um, it's just opposing run logic, really, right? So let's play 8 a.m. Now. Like I said, these lows right here are relevant, like relevant levels. I'm going to show you on the hourly time frame. Now, there is a 4 hour divergence here. It's just a fair value gap, but these are just lows, right? And there's a divergence with ES here. So these are relevant because you see the space between this low and this low. So within relevant swings, you're going to get a reaction off of these levels, right? Um, rather than something like this that we wouldn't really care about. We got a reaction off this high. We wouldn't trade that, right? Because we don't trade away from failure swings. But these swings here with more of a space between them, you're likely to get more of a reaction, right? Because there's no reason to return once this is cleared, everything within this area is cleared. There's no reason to return to this level. That's the logic there. If we have swings, there is a reason to return here, right? Because now we have these swings, right? So that's the logic there. Once we take out this, there's really no reason to return here. Um, so that's what you're going to see here. And yeah, like I said, we were close to these highs anyways. So longs here makes sense in my opinion. And let's go back to the economic calendar. I believe you have 10 a.m. news. We're on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. news. Nothing to really concern yourself with, but um, so come around 9:30, right? Here's a little some things to keep in mind around drivers. So this being the only relevant level to reverse from, we actually hit this level prior to 9:30, right? A driver. So if you hit a key level prior to a driver, then that driver should expand away immediately, right? We don't need to return back to here. And if this level wasn't hit prior to the driver, then you want to see the driver manipulate it and then expand away. So what we see here is the 9:30 open right here. You see how we hit it prior and we expand away immediately. This kind of validates this as a low today in a way. What we can use is a 15-minute closure here. You get this both on NQ and ES. Now, one thing I personally did, you see all these highs to the left and just 10 a.m. news in general coming to the market. I'm not going to use a 3-minute. I'm going to refer to a 5 minute. If you're going to look on NQ as well, the strength kind of switches. It's kind of weird. But same thing goes here. We're taking out a bunch of highs prior to this news event. So I'm just gonna wait and I'm gonna acquire a little bit higher time frame. So like the 5 minute or usually the 5 minute, right? Not like the 3 minute. Here you get 10 a.m. opens are here, and you get this close above, whether you're using like 4 minute, doesn't really matter, right? These are pretty clean right here. So I would say those are valid entries. Um, Now stop loss placement, whether you wait for a retest or not, this hits 2R. Now, this is not what I'm aiming for this high though. Previous day's high, which doesn't get hit on ES. This is not what you want to see, right? You don't want to see it, 11 a.m. pull back really deep in the range. Not really something you want to see, right? We want to see that driver really expand, right, without any deep retracement. So that's just unfortunate. You can't really do anything about it. So whether you trim there or not, or maybe hit a break even, I think that's a great trade to take, to be honest. There's nothing wrong with that at all. If you look on ES, we have a 4 minute close here, and we eventually do get to the high. This is what I mean by the strength switches for whatever reason. Kind of hard to anticipate, but yeah, right. You get that continuation signature, failure to reverse off of all these highs. Right, we get that close through, which is always a great signature to see. Pair that with the driver. So I thought this day was pretty good. Like the context was there. Now we're not going to be looking. I personally wouldn't be looking for continuations like at 12 o'clock or something. Not really the window that I look for trades. Um, but yeah, I mean that was really that day. Nothing too much going on. So the closure of Tuesday. What do we have here? We still have an objective open. I'm typically going to roll my bias over. You know, to the next day long. But you're gonna see we have on Wednesday we have CPI, so we have to keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and play out the profiling. Go on uh, NQ here. So if you look on ES, like I said, we had that strength where we close over opposing candles. If we go on like the hourly time frame, we could refer to this as an invalidation point, right? Now we don't close over here on NQ. Let's just go ahead and play this out. Let's go and play the 2 candles out. So what do they do? They range, so this is good. Like, this is great, what we wanna see. We don't have a protected swing for the day yet, so ideally, what you wanna see is a reversal off of these lows, right? But what you're gonna see is CPI just melts lower. Um, wait. Oh, sorry, this was the, 1800 candle. This is the 1 o'clock candle. So this looks pretty good in my opinion, right? I wanna see this stay intact to expand higher, but that's not what happens. You look on ES as well. It looks good, like, to be honest, right? This looks like a London reversal. You have all these highs up here, all these failure swings on a lower time frame. It looks really good for longs, but we have to let it pass, and you're going to see what happens here. CPI gets released, and it just melts lower. This pretty much is just random to me. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, right? Because we're leaving all these highs here, and that's kind of been the market lately, right? We're leaving all these highs where it doesn't even make sense to me to even it's not like we would even trade this anyways, right? But to trade this shorts, it does make sense, I guess, to flip your bias. I guess that could be the case. Um, but what you'd want to see is 9:30 give either that continuation or like early on in the 10 a.m. candle because we have 10 a.m. news here, right? Well, what you're gonna see is 9:30 we expand back into the range. And this is something you see a lot of times. Let's say we're bullish or something. Let's say 8:30 manipulates a relevant level, 9:30 opens here, and then this is where you want to see 9:30 kind of expand. So it's like manipulation, 8:30 and then 9:30 expansion in the other way or reversal. And that's kind of what you're seeing here, right? We have 8:30 manipulation taking out this relevant swing in the market and then 9:30 expanding. But this is to me, it's untradeable because of the wick size of the day, right? Although, yeah, we get some sort of movement up, it doesn't make sense, right? We have this huge wick here. So to me, you're gonna see 10 a.m. candle here. We don't reverse in the 10 a.m. candle. So now it's just like 11 o'clock. You can't expect these times at like 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the day to really just make this expand. This doesn't. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to enter around volatility drivers. This is when we can get that expansion and expect that expansion. But here, we're just kind of just posing above opposing candles. Looks like we're drawn to here. Not something that I would you know concern myself with here. Oh, just let this day go, um, and roll your bias to the next day. So going off the close, this leaves a one-sided bias, in my opinion, right? Because now we have Monday's high, we have the previous day's high, and now I'm assuming that this is now a protected swing, right? The next day is opening near. Let me just play this out real quick. The next day is just opening near these highs, and we also have an opposing candle, right, to refer off of as well. So yeah, this is like a clear one-sided bias. This is um, probably the best besides Tuesday. No, this is probably the best you know, bias we can roll over for the day, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and play this out. Let's go ahead and look at the economic calendar. This next day is Thursday. I think it's just core PPI. So we kind of want to wait for that to roll over. Let's play these two candles. Right, in my opinion, this looks pretty good as well. We kind of just open lower, and we're already in this invalidation level as well. And at this point, we do take out this objective here, but we still have this one, so that's still fine. We're not viewing these highs as a valid reversal point. Um, so when we look, at the lower time frames, do we have a reversal yet? We do. We could validate this, I suppose. So we're going to let this roll over. So if this is going to be assumed low of the day, what do we want to see the drivers do? I mentioned this for Tuesday's trading. We want to see the drivers expand away, right? Because if they fail to displace lower, then that If it was gonna go lower, it would go lower at those times. So, when we create protected swings or we trade away from this low, when it already makes sense to go higher, then that validates our idea. So let's go ahead and play out this news event. I'll just fight this whole candle at this point, right? We get that expansion with these volatility drivers. And what you're going to see here is we have 8:30 news right here. So what does it do? Right, takes out this low, it expands away. So at this point, I don't expect 9:30 to return to here at this point. Um, so there's a couple ways you can do this now. We already have a 15-minute CSD right here. And at this point, when I go to 30-minute time frame, I have this to refer to for 9:30 to expand off of. So I think this is a valid entry, in my opinion, for 9:30. Um, I don't have any problems with it. If you want to wait for something lower time frame, I would switch to. I took this on ES by the way because when I look at 9:30, let me just clear some of this mess up for you guys. When I look at 9:30 here, we just expand away and we're kind of just leaving all these lows. So I'm obviously not going to mark execute and put my stop loss here, right? These little small opposing candles we're not concerned with. We like bulky opposing candles, right? So when I look at ES, we actually CSD this high first. So that was my entry. And we also had objectives open. So I'm not really concerned with the strength or nothing like that. So you see this opposing candle here? I entered on the retest personally, so right there. And I think that's a pretty good entry, right? Right here, 2R or whatnot, and that gets hit pretty nicely. You also have this entry here as well, maybe this one as well. So there's a couple of entries this day. Like I said, Thursday and Tuesday were the trades of the week, really. And we had saw this objective open. That's what I really loved about this day in particular. You know, like I said, when you look left, when I go to the 7-hour chart, like I said, we had this objective cleared, relevant objective. And then when we look at the lower time frames, this is the space between this low and this low is very significant. When we see 1 o'clock candle trade into that, there's literally no reason to go lower. Um, and like I said, we had on NQ this opposing candle. Right? So it makes a lot of sense to expand in this next 8 o'clock candle, right? With those drivers showing us as well. And you see the space between, right? Between this low and this low. Um, so yeah, a lot of logic for this day. Absolutely fire day in my opinion. Um, so hopefully you guys caught something in there. And Friday, all of our bias into Friday. We took out the objective the week, so it's a little uninteresting in my opinion, this day in general. But you're gonna see. I did end up taking a trade here just because the profile. So if you look at um, 7 o'clock candle, let's go ahead and look at the economic calendar. What do we have? 8:30, not relevant. It's you can trade it, like not something to concern yourself with. So this is there. This 1 o'clock candle is really nice. What you see here, right? We expand. This is the only relevant lows, right? Look at the space between. Like I said, when you take out these relevant lows in the market, you're gonna get a reaction. But these are where you want to frame reversals off of, right? Because there's no reason to return. If it's gonna be a bullish day, it's going to do it from here. You know. So we're going to refer to news events within this candle to expand away. That's what we want to see, right? So if you have an assumed low of day, if you go to the 15-minute chart or something, I don't think there really is a CSD. It's all the way up here, which kind of sucks. You're gonna have to wait for that. So here's 8 o'clock news event, and it's expanding away from this low. That is a confirmation, right? That's what we want to see. And we want to see 9:30 do that as well, right? So if you look here, so maybe you took something in here. I personally didn't. Maybe you took this. Not really something that I like, to be honest. It's kinda slow. Maybe you did, and you probably would have won this trade, but I waited for 10 AM personally. I don't really like any of this stuff in here. Look at NQ. Yeah, it's just a little ugly here. Um, but maybe you did, and I don't really hate it necessarily. Um, but yeah, I would probably I personally just waited, and you're gonna see it gets really ugly. So I really like this opposing candle personally, because I waited for 9:30 because any all this stuff was kind of just ugly. So I was just rolling my bias to 9:30, and again, you want to see 9:30 expand away. So this was my entry on this, the failure to displace lower,
Yo,
getting
yo,
that great
Garrett.
signature.
Stream
That was
froze. Stream froze.
oh shoot, for how long? It was like super
Well,
long.
like 30 seconds, bro.
Oh,
Not
okay,
much.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just go over this day again real quick. So going to the day, not really that very interesting. Just we took out all these highs, right? Um, but I like the profile for longs here. Like I said, we have 1800 candle, not really do anything. Didn't really trade into anything relevant. Then we have the 1 o'clock candle taking out these relevant lows in the market. So if we're going to be bullish, it's going to expand away from here. There's no reason to come lower, right? Mentioning how these lows in the market, these relevant lows, are going to get, you know, reactions off of. And you want the drivers to expand away from that. If you have a London reversal, that's what we have here. And like I said, I would wait for um, 8:30 in this case because there is no CSD. If I look on ES, we CSD'd first here. So if you took something in here, you see this lethargic PA, it's just not my style personally. Um, but if you did, maybe you would have actually won trade here. Not really sure, to be honest. Maybe you took this prior to 9:30 to close here or something. Just not a fan personally. I'm not really sure if this even wins, to be honest. Yeah, it's just really choppy. Maybe you get stopped out there. It is what it is. Me personally, I'm waiting for 9:30 to give me something, a little bit more convincing. And that's what I had here personally, right? We have this opposing run to the draw and close through. So I'm viewing this as a continuous signature. So I took this on the retest personally into this high because when I look at the RR here, taking the close, it just doesn't. I don't really like it personally, right? It's just the R doesn't make sense. So if I just wait for the retest, it refined it to 2.2 R, and this EA is not what you want to see. And as soon as this gets taken, your day is done. Like there's no reason to look for longs, in my opinion, because if the drivers in this day can't expand, what makes you think that after 11 o'clock you're going to get some clean expansion? It just doesn't logically make sense. I think we do get some sort of expansion, but as you see, like just let the day go. You know what I'm saying? Your day is done if you took this trade. But yeah, I took this trade. If you took anything prior to that, maybe you took a loss, maybe you took a win. Um, that's really all I have for this day. Did you have anything, Kiko? Anything to add about this week in
No, I mean,
general?
you summed it up perfectly. I mean,
Yeah,
I just the other things I already posted in my channel pretty much because I've been tracking day by day. I think Friday, you're kind of right. I took that trade on ES on Friday, actually. I had to last week. And yeah, it just didn't play out the way you would have wanted. Obviously
yeah,
framing the retest after 10 a.m. to maybe get 2R into the high of day. But once
yeah.
that high is well essentially cleared, or in the ES case it wasn't cleared, you're pretty much done for the day. And if you look a bit to the left, I think just before February, 30th January highs were right above. So I felt like it
Mhm.
would have at least made the run, but
Oh,
it
I
didn't.
see.
And so,
Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah,
that's kind of brutal. But
that is.
yeah, I mean, from the entire week standpoint, Tuesday was a really good day. If the open shook you out, that's fine, I think. But if you caught that, that's just as good because it totally fits into our model. And then Wednesday CPI just ripped down. At that point, you have to like consider in terms of our logic, the way that we would trade, we're not exactly looking to long CPI higher on that same day because it's already
Yeah.
expanded so much. So waiting out the weekly reversal, framing that Wednesday is making a run on Tuesday's low, and we've got failure swings above, just sets up a perfect profile for Thursday. And honestly, Thursday was just a beautiful day. It
Yeah, it
looked a
was.
bit messy on the lower time frames, but 15-minute, 5-minute, you could have found a lot of nice stuff into
Mhm.
those highs above.
Yep. Yeah. So Tuesday, just given how Monday's close was, closing near the highs, especially on NQ, I think that was a pretty good day too. It just didn't offer the craziest expansion. Where is it at? Tuesday. It actually didn't even offer expansion, but I found a trade here somewhere on ES here, just to the previous day's high. But yeah, it just didn't really expand. But I see the logic why how it could have done it. Just didn't really do it. Kind of just paused there. But
I think
yeah, Wednesday
there's
was a
something to
or
do with
Thursday.
news, maybe even like something with Trump talking, which is like
Yeah, there was.
we had Powell at 10, and then it had like a sort of a neutral release, but then we started getting expansion higher, and at that point we'd say, okay, this thing is probably gonna head higher into the buy side, and it just
Hmm.
sort of started to stall around the daily open, and
Yeah,
didn't get the job done, so to say. That's just
yeah.
one
I
of those
think
days where it's like you're happy you take partials and you get some out of it because being too greedy is going to punish you when the idea is totally valid, in my opinion.
yeah. So we'll get to questions now probably. Um, but yeah,
Sure, yeah.
pretty interesting week for sure. Go ahead and what y'all got here? Stream Pros. Yeah, that's my bad. I
We
took
are
YM
taking
on
questions and
Tuesday
comments.
at 10 a.m. Oh, the candle face deep. It's a little scary, but I held all the way through. Yeah, I held two because I thought it was a pretty one-sided bias. So when it's like a one-sided bias, will. I'm cool with taking the loss for real. If I see SMT, so you're gonna see here. So what day were you talking about here? Oh, YM on Tuesday. Okay, interesting. YM. God, I only gotta let these dogs in.
You got to feed them too, man.
Okay, YM Tuesday. Let's get to that. Hmm. Not the biggest fan of this PA here. I don't want to really feel comfortable trading away from these lows. Maybe there's S&P there. No, there's not. Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I would trade this, to be honest. But see what you took. This was Tuesday. Let's see what this trade into. I think you're thinking of another day, bro. Maybe Friday or something. Day is it, bro? Are you sure this is YM on Tuesday? I don't think I'm seeing what you're seeing here, man. I don't see any manipulation.
I think that's Wednesday.
Yeah, that can't be Tuesday.
It looks like CPI right there on the 5-minute. Yeah, check the 5-minute chart. I think that that's CPI. Never
Let me see.
mind. What?
This is like Thursday or Friday or something. This is probably this day or something.
It says 11th of February, 25. That's
Oh, I see
Tuesday.
it right here. What the hell? Wait, what? Oh, I was on something else, bro. I was like over here. Oh yeah, I was on last week, bro. I was on like the previous week. My bad, dude. Oh, this looks really nice. Damn. Yeah, this looks good. You're in SMT? No, fine. So 930. Okay, so it's like the same situation as in QES where we hit this low prior to 930. 930 kind of expands away. Um, so your entry was where? Gary. I think there's news to this day, right? Tuesday, 10 o'clock. Tuesday. Yeah, we had news 10 o'clock. Yeah, it shouldn't return to here. So this is fine entry. So I'm not sure what you took. Maybe you took this first CSD. This is what it looks like you took, right? Yeah. Okay. That's not really something that is really taught in the. It's not like you can't do it, but we usually look for continuation signatures. So something like this, right? Where we don't try to catch the reversal. But I don't think it's necessarily invalid, right? It should expand away from here because again, this is the really the only relevant swing when you look at relative to this high and low. You just have a consolidation range in between there. You have a bunch of low resistance liquidity. When you think about the daily candle, this is like literally perfect. We're opening low. We don't need to create a wick. We're opening low, right, into a relevant swing, and then the drivers are expanding away. I really like this trade, and I think this is my model here. You guys use it. You guys are gonna use it, right? You have the reversal candle, um, 9 a.m. Then you have 10 a.m. opening up within that. So now it's like intracandle CST here. Yeah, this is my model like directly right here. Um, yeah, that's really clean. I like that trade. That was a good one.
Bearish bull, that question that you put, I think Garrett just approached that based on the Tuesday logic. Due to how the open comes in and the difference
Hmm.
between ES and Nasdaq, you're sort of waiting for that higher confirmation on the 5 minute instead of the initial 3 minute. I was looking at the exact same thing you were looking at, and I don't see anything wrong in it, like just from the foundation standpoint or expansion model standpoint, where we get the initial reversal confirmation, low of day seems to be put in, and we're looking to take the 3 minute. But the issue there is that you're positioned quite high up in that previous
Hmm.
candle's range. So the first 3 minute entry, and you're waiting the volatility driver. So I think in this case, if you're waiting out for the 5 minute, you're working with a better probability of not getting, stopped out. And then right after we get that stop hunt at 10, I mean, it's pretty textbook from there on out, right? Stop hunt at 10
Yeah.
forms a reversal, and that ends up like that stop hunt into expansion again in that next leg higher gives you a more high probability entry. I'd be really conservative with um, buying on those small body candles when you have a range like that, where the previous two candles, you can see how they make this massive range to the upside, because you could expect a pullback right after these highs down into the range and then make a new leg higher to expand again.
Yeah. So like you see kind of like the space between this high and high. I'm really like when we expand into all these highs, you're going to get some sort of reaction. And we're so close to 10 o'clock, you might as well just wait. Right. So we hit this high here, you get a series of opposing candles, then 10 a.m. opens. Like if you wanted to wait for this on the 3 minute, it's a lot more logical in my opinion. Right. You get that close through. It gets close, but and then we expand away. The 5 minute as well. You have a not really the cleanest opposing candle, maybe 4 minute. You have some here as well. So, not you're right about longing, right? Like really, like, with the bias and everything, but this is something to pay attention to, right? Just high in the range after a very large expansion that you can get a new phase of price. And it's so close, like I said, to that driver, you might as well just wait. Um, but yeah, I thought Tuesday was like pretty clean overall. Any more questions? Garrett, is this what was scary to me? Running this little high here. Maintaining early retracement from 150. I wouldn't even consider that to be relevant though. Because look, and I'm actually gonna show you why I held some of these trades on NQ. So yeah, like this is the relevant high here. And all these little feather swings, right? Because this is like all low resistance liquidity, right? And like, when you yeah, like look here. We can only take highs. This high is not really that relevant. Like, if we should if we like reverse, we should clear all these highs out, and then it would reverse. It would make sense. Um, Now, like I said, This is 10 a.m. news. Like, you probably should wait. And, like, just in general, like, the way we teach here, in any model that you trade if any model that you're trading, we don't really enter on the first CSD. That's not really something that's taught here. So, I don't know if that's, like, invalid. Maybe that's something that you do, but as far as the expansion model, that's, like, invalid pretty much. Um, like, this is the trade that you would take right here, right? And that's the exact reason, right? You don't want to take unnecessary losses. We kind of confirm the reversal with that continuation signature, which is present right here after the 10 a.m. You know, you get that continuation signature, right? Opposing to the draw. You get that opposing run, kind of a deep run, but you take at the bodies of not really the cleanest opposing candle, but there's really nothing to, yeah, there's really no clean opposing candle. But yeah, it's not so bad here. Pretty good entry there. But yeah, this high is like irrelevant, right? It would need to clear like all these highs out, right? Now we're just leaving equal highs, which doesn't kind of like adds on to the confluence, to be honest. Especially when you get that continuation signature. Now you have equal highs to target. And I took a this is the reason why I held my trade on I think it was like Friday or something. Let me try to find it. Um yeah, so I entered here, like I said, when 9:30 took out this low, and we got that closure here. The reason why I never even went break even or I was cool with taking the loss is because we never took out this high and we didn't have the SMT here. So it's like it doesn't even make sense to reverse. Like logically, like the markets don't typically do that, right? So when we put this SMT in here, then I'm comfortable just holding this trade, right? And then we take it out. Um, so yeah, I'm not even viewing this as a reversal to be honest. It's just slow, choppy PA. And if it took me out, it is what it is. That's not something that I anticipate to happen as reversals off of failure swings. Could you repeat
I think that
why?
adds on to Forsaken's question. Sorry for interrupting, Garrett.
Oh, go ahead.
This right here. Forsaken asked this. What Garrett was just explaining, it's like when we're viewing the market, we're always looking at it as a means of where does the market reverse from and where's the next level that it can reverse from. And that's where we're taking profits. So when you're looking at a range from the high to the low, and we form a reversal below the low of the range, let's say it's a previous daily low, and then we come back inside, logically from the standpoint that we're taking, the approach we're taking, there should be no reason for price to come back towards that level until the furthest extreme has been met. And so when you're looking at it within the weekly range, for instance, we may run out an intra-week low and then target the current intra-week high. So we're not looking to abandon our bias until that objective is met because we've already formed a level of reversal below the weekly open, and that sort of applies across the day as well. So when we have something where the market trends down in the overnight session, we put in a swing low, we retrace, and then we drop through that low again and form a proper reversal. We want to take our profits, or we want to take the majority of our position off once we've reached the current high of day or a further extreme if there's a clean level that we see, like a previous daily high or a daily failure swing. That's just obvious because to frame every single failure swing on the 15-minute or 5-minute and start to get hesitant about it or start to think that the idea is invalid just doesn't make sense. It's like the market's just going to be moving from lows to highs to lows to highs, and so once it's just made a low, a local bottom, it's going to be trending higher for some time. And sometimes the patience aspect comes in where you start to think, okay, maybe my idea is wrong, it's taking too long, all these things, but there's no edge in that. Like, you're not going to feel out if the market is taking too long to get somewhere. Sometimes
Mhm.
it'll do it in 15 minutes, sometimes it'll do it in 5 hours, right? But the point is that until it gets to that point, you shouldn't have any concern for your trade. And if it does stop you out, that's fine, right? That's why we have risk management, because you took a trade and it was aligned with your model and you took a loss, and we can just move on with that understanding. But if it doesn't happen and you self-sabotage, you're ending up destroying your capital even though you're taking the proper trades, just because you can't see the idea through until the level at which you could logically, from a higher time frame standpoint, expect the market to stop or reverse again.
Well said. Um, could you repeat why we don't take first CSD? Yeah, so if you look at the way the fractal model is built and the expansion model, right? When we trade into a relative reversal point, right? The opposing candles that run into that level, this confirms the reversal, right? But we want added confluence, right, for continuation. The continuation signature is simply, right, opposing candles getting closed over after the reversal here. Um, and when we think about expansion, what supports expansion? Opposing candles. So it's just an added level of um, confirmation, right? If you look at the fractal model or the expansion model, that's what we do. That's what we look for. Um,
You could even make it more fun and just look at it from a standpoint of we make a low, then we make a lower low, which is that
right.
reversal confirmation, and then the continuation is just a higher low. So we're forming a higher time from swing point, and so following a higher time from swing point, we're just going to get the next leg higher, which is sort of how the market is running by itself. But we like to use open high low close to make sense of it.
Yes, sir. All right. What else we got here, man? You got any more questions, guys? I'll take us on ES on a Wednesday after closing a 1 hour CSD and well, 5 minute, but I got stopped out on Wednesday. We had CPI Wednesday, right? Go ahead and look at that. Maybe right here. Is this where? Joseph? Yeah. Okay, so here's the problem with this, in my opinion. So this may not be a expansion model logic thing, right? But in general, right, when we get a large move, right, like this, you're going to get usually another phase of price. And I'm usually always going to revert to 930 to give me that continuation signature. And what you're kind of doing here, I know that the expansion model doesn't focus on hourly candles, but you're essentially selling the discount end of an expansion candle, right? After taking objectives. So that's not what you typically want to do, right? You want to enter basically you want to catch this move, right? Not chase it, right? But you can't catch this move because that's CPI, right? You don't catch CPI moves. So what you really want to do is roll over that bias, ideally to 930, and you want to see some sort of continuation lower, right? Because it's typically not going to just make a one-sided move, right? After taking out a extremely relevant swing here, right? So I would definitely wait for that. This just looks like consolidation to me, really. Like it's just inside of one candle, but you know, that's just kind of my view on that one. See, 930 is like right here. Where's it at? Yeah, it's like right here. I would have wanted to see something like this, right? So whenever you see like an 830 driver or something, this is what you want to see. You don't want to enter right after the expansion, right after huge expansion. That's usually not going to go well for you. You want to see something like this. Let's say 830 trades into this low, right? You get, let's say, a 15-minute CSD. My dog is crying. And you get like a 5-minute CSD. This is what you want to, trade to this high. Like we don't want to trade after this high gets taken out necessarily, especially when just have 930 around the corner. Like wait for that continuation signature. You know what I'm saying? That's just what I would say, really. Um, but yeah, I would never um, look to trade this after this huge expansion rate. Just wait for 930 because those two drivers, like when you have two drivers, they tend to pair well with each other um, for continuation. Or if this, in this case, it was a manipulation of this low, and then 930 will just reverse. But if this was a continuation lower, it would just be you would look for 930 to give you a continuation signature, right? We want to use these drivers to pair entry. Um, I get just a question in trade manager. If I Created a entry at 10 a.m. candle, but didn't hit my TP before noon. Is it okay to hold? Yeah, I think so. As long as there's no, as long as you're that's fine. So absolutely hold. I hold. Sometimes usually like you're usually going to hit your trade prior to that. Usually, especially for interground drivers, you want to see speed, but it happens sometimes. If you're like the first relevant objective for the day is not hit early on in the session, it's not ideal to be honest. But if you take a partial at the relevant objective, you're looking for further, just trailing or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, 100%. Even if the first objective isn't taken, like you can't control that. You know, if there's a protected swing above your entry, just go break even. That's really all you can do because you truly never know. You know what I'm saying? Like I've taken a bunch of trades this week where like it'll just I'll be in a trade, bro, and I don't even know I know it's gonna go like to this objective. Let's say it's something like this, right? Let's say I get into a trade and there's an objective down here, and I can frame a trade to this low, this relevant swing. I want to get in before we take out this relevant swing, right? So let's say this is like 9:30 or something. I'm getting in. So I get in this trade, I trim right here, right? You never know when the market is going to come here. So I always say leave a runner because there's many times this week, bro. Like I'll show you some trades. Like I had no idea that we're gonna reach, let's say, this objective here, but there's logic for it. Let's look. Where was my trade at? It was. No, sorry, that's Friday. Damn, where the hell was it? Let me look 4 hour real quick. Oh, it's because I'm on bar replay. Sorry, I took something in here. Now, did I know that we were going to get to these lows? No, but I just left the runner, right? I trailed, and like I said, you never know. And these are the trades that really spike your equity curve, right? And this is the trades you want to capitalize on, right? You look at gold, right? I took this trade as well, right? Did I know that was gonna get? I took it to like the previous low, which is like here. Did I know it was going to displace this much past it? No, but you can capitalize on stuff like that, right? Um, so you just never know. Just stay in the trade until it's invalidated, because you never know, and you don't have to know. Just let the market. Let it do its thing, and just follow your rules. Keep your approach systematic. You don't have to guess too much. Could you check USD CHF short daily C2 close and 1 hour 5 minute entry? I could. You said daily C2 close. Okay, I assume you mean this one. All right, so let me pull this up here. Right, so no CSD in this candle, but you get it right here. This is quite the range. Like, oh my goodness. Um, so you have to enter, after this mechanically until this close here. So this is really the only area that I see. I don't know if you're talking about this. I could no find no entry after 1 hour CST because I wanted to wait for retest of 1 hour CST. Oh, I mean, you don't have to get a retest of 1 hour CST to get a trade, right? Because I don't know if you're a fractal trader, but as long as it hits one of the key levels, a swing point, a fair value gap, or an order block, you're good to look for continuation. So if I look here, like I think there's 8:30 news here. This is just gross. You see this CST here? You don't want to see this deep retracement right here. There's like an invalidation, right? Um, you see this wick. This is why we have this rule, right? Once you start to see that, it's not really interesting to me anymore. And then yeah, like, there's no trade this day. You need to be waiting for 8:30 news here, most likely. And this is why we guys, this is why we wait for continuation signatures. Because if you're looking, for the first CSD, that's a loss. That's a loss. That's most likely a loss. That's a loss. You know what I'm saying? Wait for the continuation signatures. You avoid so many losses. Um, you don't even have to guess where the reversal is. The continuation signature really confirms it. So there's not much there, and that's fine. That's a part of the game, right? You cannot, catch all of them, right? If we look at the previous day, I'm gonna see if I see my model here. I think I do. This is my model mechanically right here. I believe so. Yeah. So I'll just give you a little. You guys already know it, but right, if we're gonna close near this low, I mean, this is obvious draw, right? For the next day, you have a swing point now, very large range, but we're not expecting a new phase of price necessarily until we tag a relevant level of reversal or just relative swing in general after expansion. So we could draw into this low or this low. So when I look at you know, how I like to trade, right? I like to trade 4-hour expansion candles. So here's the 1 o'clock open. So where is a valid reversal point? Is this swing high? That's a key level. And we're going to wait for a candle to closure on the 30-minute or 1 hour to form the 4-hour high. That's what we get here, right? Ideal swing formation. So this is when, right, you have this session low as well as all the way down here. Looking to trade a candle 3, open, high, low, close on 30-minute time frame. So the time frame pairing for that is the 3-minute, right? And the candle, it opens low first, then comes back up, creates the wick of it, and you get the close through. So this would be an entry right here. First TP. Now we're just looking for opposing candles to support price. First TP could be this low or 2R, whatever you like to do. This is about 2R, so yeah, you definitely want to partial here as this is a relevant swing. And then final TP can be like down here. So the next day gives an entry. So you see how one day doesn't give an entry, but second day, it's cool, dude. It's absolutely fine, right? This trade right here could be your whole week. You know what I'm saying? A trade like this, we eventually get there, but yeah, you know, you guys will see the course will be out soon. I think someone asked that, by the way. What time is it right now? Okay, we got a couple more minutes here. I am new to the expansion model and fractal model. So my question here is related to the fractal model. Generally, I can base my trading bias with each trading day, or should I keep in mind the weekly profile and derive the bias from it as explained in the expansion model? So the difference between the expansion model and the fractal model is the fractal model, you can really adjust to your personality. Like, are you a scalper, right? Are you an intraday trader or are you a swing trader? You can do either or. The expansion model is purely based on high probability trading, like catching daily ranges, weekly ranges. The way I use the fractal model, which my course is coming out, is more like the approach of the expansion model, but I use the fractal model like as a mechanical um, approach to reversal and also entry. So I like to trade basically just high probable fractal models, which is what I just showed you. So that will be out soon. I think it's going to help a lot of people because that's what people have trouble with. And my approach to bias is a bit mechanical. Oh, what's up, T's in here? So it's going to help you guys. Um, what's the next mention? Um, do you ever look at a Mexim curve? Um, I mean, that's what we're trading. I mean, that's really what we're trading subconsciously, right? Like a candle two reversal. If you think about a candle two reversal, all that is the smart money reversal, and then the candle 3 and 4 are like distribution phases, right? That's literally what that is, pretty much. Just let the market, like, literally. I'm telling you, man, I let stuff run, and it surprises me, and I don't even have to guess. Just get in a trade where it makes sense to reverse from the daily range and just let the daily range expand, and partial where it makes sense, right? And trail where it makes sense, and just let it do what it wants, and you will be surprised. Um, mm, 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 mm. Horse is cooking. Yes, I need you to cook, bruh. All right, any more questions, guys? Um, about at an hour. I think we covered the NQ pretty well. Pretty interesting week, but there was some decent trades to be taken. And I thought the days to avoid, they're like pretty obvious, right? Monday and Wednesday. Any more questions? If not, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. When's GXT coming out? Probably Monday or Tuesday or something like that. It'll be out this week. And I'll do when that's out, I'll do like a stream. You know how the expansion model, how we did a stream covering, AM did a stream covering all the sections in the expansion model. I'll do that. That's crazy. Yeah, that was a cool little CHF example, huh? I'm telling you, dude, like it's freaking good. You guys are gonna love it. You guys will be taking the same trades as me, basically. Uh, but yeah, we're still working on it. Let me let this dog out. Y'all got any more questions? Just go ahead and type them out.
Feed your dog, man.
Dude,
Feed him, bro. All right, awesome, Forsaken. I hope that it works that I put this out just in these images. Tuesday when I have my own stream, I can maybe go over that in a video call. I just didn't want to take the stage today because my VPN and stuff is tweaking and it doesn't make sense to have two streams open. So Garrett is the master today, but I can get to that topic a bit more going forward.
does the course come out with additional pair of eyes? Okay. Maybe I can do a stream. We're gonna do some live trading in the future. You guys will see how I do it. I only trade on one screen. I don't do this, so um I don't know why my thing's not switching over. So I only trade like with one screen open. I don't do this. No, I don't like that. I traded with one screen. I don't know. I set alerts, and you guys are gonna see like I just wait for candle opens. So it's like I don't know how. It's not that hard. I swear. SMT with copper. I don't think there is one. I don't use it. I don't use I don't use SMT there. And like stuff like NG. These are stuff like barely trade. I did take like two trades on copper. Um, so I caught this expansion candle lower, and I caught this day higher here. But it's not those two assets like NG and HG like barely trade. Thought Kiko was Danish. All right, guys. I think we will leave it there, boys and girls.
Yeah, let's call it, man. That was a good hour.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
Have an amazing weekend, everyone.
All right. Catch y'all later.
Thank you, Garrett, for hosting this, and I'll see you all tomorrow.
Yes, sir.